we love your business so much. Everything you ever put out, it just feels so luxury and, it adds just a different touch, to the whole wedding day, whether it's, detail pictures and even the guest experience. So we would love to hear your story and how you came to be in the industry, how you started your business and grew it to what it is now.
Okay. Well, I tend to get long-winded, so cut me off if you need to.
That's fine.
I actually landed in the business entirely by accident. My professional training is in mental health, and I was a mental health therapist for many, many years, working with severely abused and neglected children, like ones where you don't want to hear what I saw and witnessed with these children. And then through, my husband and I, we started trying to have a family, and I was 30 when I was told, sorry, not going to happen for you guys, at least not naturally, kind of thing. And so, you go through that whole healing process, and I'm still working with the kids and all the things. And then when I'm 37, we find out that we are pregnant with Ian, and which was both an incredible and wonderful and absolutely terrifying feeling. Because when you've gone through like the infertility journey, you just, being pregnant was probably one of my favorite times in my life. It was also the most terrifying because I'd never gotten to be there before. I had no idea what my body was going to do and all the things. So, but I was fortunate enough when Ian is born, where I got to have the choice on whether or not I left the outside workforce and became a stay-at-home mom, or I returned to work. And I chose to stay home, and quickly learned that I still need adult interaction and conversation. And all the things that come with that. And so, and I've always loved paper. I mean, even when I was little, and my parents would let me go pick out a project or something at the store, it always involved paper and glitter and glue and all the school supplies. Even when I have no reason to go through the school supply section, I do, and I love the smell of all the things. I mean, I always have. And so, and then of course I did the scrapbooking thing for a long time and stuff. And then once we had Ian and I really started kind of fine tuning, I got really tired of using I was, like I said, I was doing scrapbooking and the cards and stuff, but I was using other people's designs to create essentially the same thing. So then I started teaching myself design and fonts and how to pair and color theory and all the things as an outlet. And then when Ian turned 2 and we had him start going to the Sunshine Academy, because as an only child, he needed that interaction.
Right.
That's when I officially launched, if you would, which was, of course, the year before COVID. Yes.
So it was 2019.
So that was let's see, he was born in 2016. So you would have been right about 2019 because he turned 2 like July of 2018. So it was like January of 2019 when I officially like launched the business, if you will. And then, and who plans for
like a year?
I had like a year or so. And then, and like anything, I don't have a business degree. So it's been a lot of trial and error. And I just, in figuring out my aesthetic and what I love and how I love to create, and making sure that I stay true to that while also designing something that is explicitly my clients as well, kind of thing. So, it was just a very accidental in how I landed in the industry, if you will. I went on for a long time. Did I even answer the question?
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
So
Yes, and we're going to keep following up questions. We want you to tell. Like,
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
no too much.
Okay. All right. Like I said, I get long-winded. Sorry.
You're fine.
So you were doing like stationery type stuff, or like, how did you transition from what you were doing into doing weddings? Like, why did you want to hone in on that?
I've always loved weddings. Here's the thing. I love parties in general. And I loved actually to plan parties. But I have no desire to be, say, a wedding planner or a party planner. That just to me, like I've planned bridal showers and baby showers and my parents' 50th wedding anniversary party. I'll do all of that stuff when I'm the one that's in charge and it's my aesthetic or my vision, so to speak.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
With maybe a little snippets of somebody else. But I don't, to be a wedding planner in and of it is just simply not something I particularly enjoy. But I love parties. I love, and as cliche as that sounds, I do. And weddings are such a joyous experience. And they're really, if you think about it, they're the only time in a couple's life where they will have the vast majority of everybody they love and who love them in the same place.
Yeah.
Because after that day, it just simply doesn't happen.
Right.
And so to get to be, even though what I do is most certainly I'm never there the day of a wedding, or, I'm just not and stuff. But to get to be a part of that it's humbling.
Yeah.
It really is. It's very humbling to be invited into such an intimate and wonderful day for a couple. So that's kind of where how I landed in the wedding, or why I decided to go there, and stuff. So
Yeah. That's awesome.
yeah, it is. They're, and I've had wonderful couples. I truly have. I've been very blessed. Knock on wood. I haven't had any that have made you want to pull your hair out or anything like that. It just, and to go from working with severely abused and neglected children and the sadness that comes with that to such a joyous, I'm working with happy people.
Yeah.
Stressed out sometimes, but happy people.
Yeah, it's
and
like the happiest time of their life.
Their happiest time of their life. And when we had Ian, it was everything I saw and I heard with those kids became I always knew it was a reality for other children, but when it's your own child, it's all very much a reality for me now. And I simply could not separate myself from that and him.
Right.
And so it honestly it felt like a very natural transition for me in that time and period of my life to go from what I did to taking what was essentially a hobby for many years and transitioning that into a business that I am blessed to be able to do. And how many people get to say, we do get to do something that we love.
Right.
So, yeah.
So can you talk more about like what a typical product offering from you looks like for a bride? Because it's not just like an invitation or it's not just a save date. So what does like the whole thing typically look like?
So for me, there is no typical. There is no one size fits all. I do things very, very differently. Everything with my couples, everything is personalized to their wants and needs. And that all starts with my initial consultation. And we talk about everything from budget, because like anybody, you walk into something and you have no concept of what anything costs. And so and then we build their wedding suite or their package based off of their wants, their needs, and within the budget that they're working with. And I have couples who we have done all the things.
Yeah.
We've done all the things. We've done letterpress on handmade scented paper. We've done it's glorious. I still have some of it and everyone. It smells like pine and it's glorious. And the vellum wraps and the wax seals and the velvet envelope liners and the letterpress and the double thick stock and the hand painted edges. And I have other couples where we they're much more simple and not any less elegant, not any less beautiful. They're just more simple in their desires and wants, and they don't have a need for all those extra invitation pieces. And that's part of that conversation I have with my couples is what information, we all know the main invitation.
Right.
And we all know that that's going to be kind of the show-stopping piece. But what additional information do they have that they want to share with their guests, and how do they want that information shared with them? And for some, it's we're having everything on our wedding website. Great. Then all we need to do is include a little card that says, for additional wedding information, go to your wedding website. For others, it's like we want the itinerary on there because it's a 3-day wedding kind of weekend thing, and we want the full itinerary on there so they can plan accordingly. We have dress codes, we have food preferences, we have a map of things to do, and all this stuff. And so I don't have a typical, because I don't have to me there's no such thing as a typical, what serves the couple the best. And that's part of, in working with me, that very individualized personal aspect of my business. I don't have set packages. I don't have, because I don't feel it's right to say, here's a set package and this is what you have to pay, even if you don't want or need 2 or 3 of those pieces in there. I mean,
that's very customizable.
It's very customizable. If they see a design that they like, but they want to switch out, say off my Instagram or my website or whatever, but the font isn't quite right, we can switch out that font. That's not a big problem. Everything is customizable. Very seldom have I ever done anything. I don't think I've ever done anything where, even if we use the same basic design, that it ever came out identical. There's no cookie cutter with me. So, and then it's also, same when we go into their day of stationery. Some couples are like, we're having a brunch. That's our reception. We're getting married in the morning. We're having a brunch, and we hope they're all gone by 4:00. Perfect. We don't need any of that stuff. You don't need any stuff. Perfect. And then there's other couples where it's very much a formal sit-down dinner. We're doing the big elaborate seating chart displays. I shouldn't say a lot, but the statement piece displays and the menus and the table numbers and the customizable signs and the bar menus printed on fabric or whatever their desires are. And even that changes from one couple to another, because I've had, and I'm very honest with my couples. At the end of the day, it's their wedding suite. And my job is to take their vision and make it come to life, even if I don't necessarily agree with said vision. So, for example, I have a fair number of couples who express an interest in foil stamping. Now, to me, foil stamping brings almost a glam kind of feel to a wedding suite and to a wedding. And if you're getting married in a place that is full of mountains, that doesn't always necessarily fit in my mind, doesn't translate very well. So I will talk to them more about, maybe let's step that back to a letterpress printing, so that you still get that textural and that feel that you want, but there's just not, as compared to my couples who are like getting married on New Year's Eve at a swanky hotel in New York, right? Their foil stamping makes more sense. And that's that conversations I have with them as far as what makes sense for your suite and your overall aesthetic.
And I love that. I feel like that's so ignored sometimes, is like the translation between, like, they want something nice and pretty, but it doesn't necessarily fit the aesthetic. And I think that's so big, to have everything have a connection through the whole wedding process.
The whole wedding process. I know there's a fair, I shouldn't say that, but I went to Wedding MBA this last year, and there was a lot of disparaging comments made about brides' Pinterest boards, because they tend to be kind of all over the place. But here's the thing, I ask if they have a Pinterest wedding board, I want to see it. And I'm not looking for invitation designs that they've pinned. Because quite frankly, if they've pinned one and they love it, then that's the one they really need to go with. But I'm looking for consistencies. Or is there certain textures? Am I seeing a lot of suede or velvet? Am I seeing like a pampas grass where hand-torn edges would come into play to bring in that aesthetic? That's when I look, I study. I'm looking for color consistencies, what colors are really popping out. And when we have that consultation, that's something else we talk about is, all right, how do you want your guests to feel when they open this invitation? Because the reality is your guests' experience begin the minute they get that invitation in the mail. And it can be as simple and unassuming as you want it to be, or it can be as extravagant as you want it to be. But that's where your guest experience starts, and you want them excited. You want them saying, yes, I don't want to miss this. And infusing your story and your personalities and your day into that paper is where that all starts.
I feel like that also makes the guests feel really special too. When you get something with like that well thought out and aesthetic in the mail, you're like, oh, like they must really want me there. It feels like exclusive, and it just like makes you excited to be a part of their wedding.
And to get to go. And some of my favorite messages I ever get from my brides is that I'll get messages from them saying so-and-so just sent me a text message and this is what they said. And I had a bride who invited a couple of senators and stuff like that to hers. And she said, I got a message from her and said so-and-so's wife just opened the invitation and couldn't believe how beautiful it was. And she actually put it back together so this particular senator could open it and experience the same thing.
That's so
and you know, to know that I did my job and I did it well, because that's the experience you want your guests to have.
Yes.
So it's fun to get to know the couples and find out what really makes them tick. What is it that makes their story so unique and different than somebody else's? So yeah, it is fun. It is a lot of fun.
Do you find that there is very many like misconceptions that you are having to continually re-educate your couples on, or anything like that is like just within, you know, stationery, invitations, things like that are like kind of a pain point?
I don't know if I would call them a part of. I see education as part of my job.
Yes.
That is part of what I'm supposed to do. Let's be honest. Our couples likely have not ever planned a wedding before, so why would they know the information that we do? Right. As a vendor, that's part of my job. That being said, timelines, stationery. Actually, when you work with a stationery designer like myself, where we're going to infuse all those pieces and stuff into it, it takes much longer than people realize. I recommend starting the process at least a year before your wedding, to give yourself time. And that doesn't mean you have to have all the information figured out by then. But the design part of that, because I can put in a fake wedding date, they should have that figured out, but a fake time and location or any of that type of stuff in the design until it's ready. But that process could take ideally about a year, not to, because you want to mail your invitations right about 8 to 10 weeks. I always recommend 8 to 10 weeks before your wedding. So if you start a year before your wedding, you're taking, however much time there to get them completed so you can get them in the mail. And if you want letterpress or foil stamping or the wax seals and all the other fun stuff, that adds time to that. Because letterpress and foil stamping are about a 5 to 6 week printing process just for the printing alone. So, and why would they wouldn't know that information? Yes. Right? So,
so someone can't just call you and say, hey, we need to send out invitations in a month or something.
No, not. No, not with me anyway. No, there are places, of course, where that's available
there's places
if
you can do that.
they can do that with. And I try. I don't like to talk disparaging because they all serve a purpose.
Yes.
Everybody serves a purpose. But with my couples, it is definitely a much lengthier process. Than
But it's a different experience.
It's a different experience.
It's an actual experience.
It is. It's very much an experience.
Yeah,
it's
where
I'm there. I'm helping with etiquette questions. I help with wording. I help. How are we matching textures together? All these things that are part of that experience, kind of thing. The other one is timeline is a big thing, and again, it's. What I recommend tends to be a little bit different than the industry standard.
Well, could you walk us through that and like what you recommend as far as like exactly timeline?
So I always work backwards from the wedding date, and I'm going to have to try to do this in my head because I don't have a calendar to look at. But let's say their wedding is June 10th.
Okay.
I don't have any idea what day of the week that is, but let's say we'll do June 9th. That's my parents' wedding anniversary. So let's say it's June 9th. My recommendation for an RSVP date is 4 weeks prior.
Okay.
So it would be, say, May 9th. And the reason for that is their caterer is going to have a deadline, the venue is going to have a deadline, whoever else is going to have a deadline much closer. And if you set your RSVP date as that deadline date, first of all, you're not going to have all your RSVPs back, and you're going to be chasing people down while you have other people asking you for those final numbers. And that's a level of stress you quite frankly don't need.
Right.
So if you give yourself an extra couple of weeks in there to track down those and get that number finalized, it's much less stressful for the couple. So May 9th would be an RSVP date, and then you want to actually mail them out with the way the post office system is right now, and even shipping in general. I actually recommend 8 to 10 weeks before their RSVP date.
Okay.
To send out the actual invitation, which is about 12 weeks roughly or so before their wedding. Industry standard says like 6 to 8 weeks. I always go a little bit longer, again, because things aren't moving through the mail as fast as they are, or it is a relatively known statistic that in mass mailings, about 1 to 3% of them are either going to be undeliverable, returned, or lost. So that also gives them extra time, if something like that should happen, to send another invitation to said guest, kind of thing, without the stress of that. And then the entire time before that is the design process and printing process and the assembly and me doing the 3-time quality check and that kind of things. But so that is why I recommend, most of it is just really to help alleviate their stress. And then the timeline from start to hand, whether I'm mailing it for them or they choose to mail it, that's entirely up to them. I always build in extra time because if we're using a specialty stock or we're doing specialty printing or something, we live in Montana. All of that stuff has to be shipped in.
Yes.
And if you work under a tight timeline, you're working under the assumption that everything is going to go smoothly.
Right.
And that simply is not always the case. Printers break down.
Yes.
I had a couple last year who we ordered this beautiful purple cotton stock for one of their enclosure cards, and that was when we had that bad snowstorm, and the roads from Denver to here through Wyoming got shut down for like a week, and their paper was stuck in Colorado. And so I build in extra time for those kinds of situations. So
we understand that timeline because even in our day we always added about 15 extra minutes to every segment or more to every segment, just because that you are if you don't add that in, you're assuming everything is going to go
Yes.
smoothly, and you just don't know.
And you don't.
And it's great if you have extra time, because then it alleviates some of that stress. And yeah, if you don't have extra, we understand that. We love a prepared
Yes. Plan, extra time, build in a buffer. At the end of the day, you'll thank yourself.
Yes.
The couples will thank themselves because it's a much more enjoyable and stress-free experience. So, and then if we're doing their day of stationery, I always tell couples, break it into chunks. Don't try to do all this at once. It's a lot to try to do at once. So once their invitations are sent out, then we start the day of stationery process. And then what I do is we get it designed, we get it ready to go, and then I just sit and wait until we know the final quantity, because that's going to fluctuate and change, and you really don't know. And then once we get that, then I can send it to print and get it all taken care of for them and in their hands long before 2 days before the wedding.
What are some of your favorite things that you've designed or been a part of for the day of the wedding? Oh,
I love day of wedding stuff. It is so, honestly, I feel like it's one of the overlooked aspects, just because it continues the guest experience.
Exactly.
And one of my favorites is when they do like a seating chart, but they're individual envelopes, and they have, honest to goodness, I pre-print the envelopes, but then they write an individual note to each one of their guests on that envelope, and then we adhere it to a mirror or something with a wax seal or whatever. That's probably when they take the time to make it that personal. It is incredible.
Well, yeah, like you said, it just continues that guest experience, and all of it will be cohesive within the design, which is huge, because I feel like a couple might see something like they're like, oh, I love this idea, and they try to execute it themselves, but it does not have that same level of quality that you would put into it, or the same the design, it doesn't flow. That cohesiveness isn't there, which it'll still probably be okay, right? But like, it's not the same.
It's not the same.
Doesn't that continue that experience?
The experience. And that's the thing is, I always let my couples know, if you're looking for matchy-matchy, I'm not your person.
Right.
I don't do matchy-matchy. One, I don't find it... I like to make everything a challenge. And I don't find it challenging to... And truly, for me, that creative, to take the same design concept and just replicate it across several different pieces of paper at different sizes. So we do a very cohesive look.
Right.
And what works for your wedding invitations may not work for your day of stationery. Right. So that's where I'm talking with your planner. I'm talking with your florist. I'm getting the mock-ups of your tables and your table settings, and so that when I am designing, I can see what it is we're working with, and make sure that it complements what you've already decided on, and it's not competing. You don't want it to compete, because then it's just going to be garish and
no, because it just needs to be that icing on the cake. Yes. It is that final touch.
That final little touch that
refines everything.
Refines and just brings it all together. So I do love a good bar sign. I'm not going to lie. I do love a good bar sign. Probably the fabric ones are my favorite, mostly because you just don't see them that often.
They're unique.
And then I love when couples, I just had a couple who they got married in Bozeman, but Big Sky is kind of their place. So for their seating chart, they purchased a map of Big Sky, and then we hired a calligrapher to write their seating chart on that. And then at the end of the day, they could clean that calligraphy off, and they have this beautiful map of a special place for them that was also used at their wedding.
Right.
So there's that sentimental value that comes with it as well. Yeah. I just, when putting in that extra special touch is, for me, that's what makes it.
Yes.
Just and as a guest, I always try to envision too, as if I'm coming in as a guest to their wedding. What experience would I want?
Right.
Knowing, of course, that I am a single person and I'm not invited to their wedding. So it's at the end of the day, I will always provide very honest feedback for my couples. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's their wedding, and if what they want is what they want, that's what I will do for them, even if it's not what I would or what I have advised them to do. So.
Right. So we want to hear about like what your favorite upcoming trends or things that are going on in your business. Like
so total transparency, I actually don't pay any attention to trends, whether it's in home decor or fashion or wedding related trends. I tend to keep blinders on because my designs are not meant to be trendy. Now that being said, will I infuse pieces of that in there if that's what the couple wants? Absolutely. Yeah. But at the end of the day, my designs are classic and timeless and not meant to be able to look back on it in 10 years and go, oh, that's the decade that came from.
Right.
You know, kind of thing. But I do know my couples, a fair number of my couples this year are actually doing bright colors, which I'm very excited for. I'm seeing more color, a little bit more bolder, maybe even some patterns in that we're infusing into the envelope liners and things along those lines. Lots of letterpress, which is my favorite. I love letterpress. And then I have several couples right now. One in particular is beautiful, black and white and gold, very tradition, very classic and timeless. Hand-torn edges, gold gilding, the letterpress.
Beautiful.
A sketched illustration of their venue. All the things that you make my heart go pitter patter and stuff. So. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see more color this year. I will always be a black and white and gold, timeless, classic kind of person, but the color can be brought in. And what's fun too is my couples want this color, but they don't want it to be obvious.
Yeah, they don't want it to feel cheesy.
Right.
The elevated color.
The elevated color. How do you bring these colors together and infuse them in a style that is just as equally classic and timeless, and how do you meld those colors together? Whether it's you bringing in a specialty stock paper, or do we do a simple little design where that is printed in a different color than maybe your names and stuff. And so it's fun to play around with the design aspect of those, and then to hear the feedback. Sometimes my feedback is great, and other times they come back and go, Janeill, what are you doing?
But that's all part of that process.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's why I'm like, please be honest with me. That is their feedback is instrumental to me in getting to the end result. And I always say anything I design with a couple turns out infinitely better than anything I will ever design by myself.
Well, and that's what sets you apart than somebody that, like just the stock things, is that it is you designing in tandem with a couple. It is it's a group effort, so it has more personality than some, stock invitation. And it's just a totally different process. And like you said, there's times and places for that stock stuff, and it serves somebody, but it's not what you do.
No,
totally different experience.
Very different, and it is an experience, and it is somebody in their court. I have picked up the phone and called a grandma to have a conversation because she was upset about them wanting to do an online RSVP. I will pick up the phone. I will have that conversation. I have no trouble having conversations. You're not going to get that kind of service from...
Right, you're there to advocate for the couple.
I am there to advocate for what they want and their needs, and have those very sometimes hard conversations with other people. Diplomatically.
Yes, absolutely. But like at the end of the day, who you're serving is your couple, and you're okay going to bat with for them.
Absolutely. And I will do that. And I have, and I will continue to do so.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's part of working with me.
Yeah. I love that.
I just have one other question for you. Like, do you find that most of your clients are based out of a certain region, or are you serving people all over the country or all over the world even? What does that kind of look like for you?
I am all over the place. I have California and Washington. I have Kentucky, Florida, New York, Maine, Montana, Colorado. I've done Scotland.
Oh, wow.
I've done Ireland. So it's fun. And the interesting thing is each region and each area has a very different vibe to it. When you look at even the venues they're choosing to get married in, and what their overall aesthetic is, and I'm working with a bride who is what is it called? A Georgia Peach. She called herself a Georgia Peach kind of thing.
I love that.
I mean, and it is, and it's wonderful, and it's fun, but each one, even within the realm of classic and timeless, is still very different for what that looks like for each one of them. So I'm fortunate, I feel, that I get to work with couples from all over.
Right.
And some of them have become great friends too, and we keep in contact afterwards, which is lovely for me.
Yes.
You know, I work by myself behind a computer at home, and adult conversation is
It's important. Yes.
and it's very limited. So, forging those friendships, and then getting to be a part when they start their families, and then I'm doing their baby shower invitations or their baby announcements or any. It's just it's fun to create those connections.
Yeah, I think that's such a cool thing, because like, what wedding couple would ever think that they would have such an amazing experience and become a friend with like the designer of their wedding suite?
Right.
Like, it's just something
Well, it's a very unique thing
It is.
to you and your experience, because like it's not something that they would think about going and planning, but it's something that they
do, and that happens. I mean, my husband, we got married 19 going on 20 years ago. We picked our wedding stationery out of a book in the back of a Hallmark store. So I mean, totally different.
Yes.
Obviously did not become friends with those people. So it is, and you do, and I'm sure you guys have too, where there's couples where you develop that bond with them, and you're sad when their day is over. You're so happy for them,
right?
But you're sad because I'm not going to be in weekly contact with them anymore. I'm just not, And some of my couples actually don't have social media, so unless we get an email every once in a while, there's not even that for them, which kudos to them for not having social media. But yeah, that it is. There's been a few that has been very hard for me to let go, because it's just been such a wonderful, wonderful experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming and doing this with us. We really appreciate you and have loved working with you. And anytime we get to hang out, it's been just wonderful. And so we really appreciate that. And
well, yes, and thank you for asking me to come on here.
Course.
I was very nervous. I've never done a podcast before. Not gonna lie.
You did great.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
No, it was great fun, and the feeling is mutual, very mutual. I adore working with you.
thank you.
Yeah.